Hi, everyone, and welcome to Heels Off at Home, the online discussion show where we talk about life, love, career, and more.
Okay, so guys, open relationships. I want to know your thoughts on it. Are you for it? Are you against it? Could you ever think about doing it?
I think open relationships or open marriages is the deadest thing I've ever heard. I think it's dead.
No.
Yeah, I think it's. I'm sorry.
Smidge of cheating with consent. A smidge.
But you can't call it cheating with consent.
It is.
Like
it's a mutual agreement. It's not.
It can't be cheating.
It can't be cheating.
On consent.
That's an oxymoron.
So then it's not cheating.
I mean, technically it depends. Do you know what? I'm actually joking. I am joking. I'm personally for I'm personally for relationships for whatever you decide within your relationship and understanding whatever you want. I've always said that I don't believe that there's a blueprint to relationships. If you look at all over the world, there are so many cultures where it's practiced for men to have several wives. I come from a background on my mum's side where her dad actually had several wives. So he came from a polygamous marriage because he was Muslim. You've got women in different countries who are allowed to have more than one husband. There are so many cultures where there's festivals, for example, where you get the opportunity to actually sleep with someone else who's not a part of your relationship. And apparently that gives you good luck. So there are so many cultures. Yeah, there's so much to open relationships. I just feel like Western society has forced us to believe that this is the only way it can progress and work, when pop culture has actually shown us that monogamous relationships don't technically always work, and there's nothing wrong with that. Just do what makes you happy and communicate, to be honest. That's what I think.
I mean, yeah, I think I would say just because monogamous relationships doesn't always work, I wouldn't say then that means that because of that open relationships or polyamorous relationships or anything can't also not work as well. Because I think sometimes people use like the reason as to why they want to explore other types of relationships. They use the whole, monogamous relationships don't always work as justification. I just think that, do whatever you feel makes you happy. That's point blank period. So I can't really have a say on like whether it's right or wrong. I think for me, I subscribe to monogamous relationships. I can only deal with one D at a time. I cannot do any others. For emotionally
20 years,
attached.
For 20 years, you're trying to tell me you will only be able to subscribe to one dick.
I mean, yeah, because besides that, there's love, there's affection, there's the effort that you're going to put into that relationship. It's more than just sex. It's more than just attraction.
Oh, definitely.
So do you know what I mean? So for me, even just being mentally stimulated by one guy, I can only concentrate on one guy at a time. Dating, cool, have your, dibs in different baskets. But if I'm going to be in a committed relationship, I actually do not have the effort and the resources to expand to more than one guy. So I personally couldn't do it. Like, I'm a jealous bee. I need one person. That is it. Yeah.
I felt the same once upon a time, actually. I felt that way once upon a time, but I realized like I was in my relationship for a long time, and I actually said to myself, I feel like I could be so comfortable if I ever gave my like partner like a card to step out, and if he did the same with me, because I was just like, a hall pass. I was just like, do you know what? I think we could actually be at that level because we were so comfortable and we trusted each other. I'd be okay with it. Of course, there's more to relationships than sex as well, but we are sexual beings, and sometimes experiencing sex with the same person for a long time does get boring for some, and they use that to spice up their sexual life as well.
I just think it just makes life so complicated. Like, why are we so complicated as humans? Like, it's just so simple. You're in love with someone, I'm in love with you, we're made a commitment, we're gonna stay together through the good, through the bad, through the boring sex. Like, we're gonna figure it out. When it's boring, we're gonna make it exciting. When I'm annoyed with you, we're gonna talk it out. Like, why is it like we've suddenly created like, oh, but actually, I don't mind if it's, they can step out with permission, with rules. And it's like, it's emotions that we're dealing with. Like, you can have rules about okay, so you're only allowed to do it if you let me know, and it can only be a one-off if you're having sex with that person, or all of these rules. Yeah, but ultimately, like, if the emotions get involved, like, I've watched a video, and they were in a really successful marriage and everything was actually cool, but they just wanted to have an open relationship, because they say, like, when you have an open marriage, it needs to come from you guys being stable, like, and you guys have just made this decision that you want to do it. Can't come from a place of
insecurity,
something's happening, insecurity. Exactly. So they did this, and then the husband fell in love with the girl that he was with, and left his wife. No, he left his wife, for 18 months. And now he's called her saying, I want to come back home. What? Why? Why open it up?
It wasn't meant to be that open for that long.
But
people do that in monogamous relationships. People do that in monogamous
happen.
relationships. Do people
They
not
do,
leave
but
their
how
partner
dare I
that
give?
they're
But
cheated
how dare
on?
me give my? Yeah, but why would I? I'm the one.
How
That
dare
like,
me?
I'm the one that opened it up. I said, "Oh, guy, you go and search for someone, and you go and do it." As opposed to in a relationship, okay, it happened, but I didn't. It wasn't because of I said yes. How am I gonna say yes and then I destroy my own marriage? And how do you go back from that?
But I guess this goes back to the fact that if you enter a relationship where there's like consensual non-monogamy, the foundation has to be pretty solid, because you are opening yourself to other parties. But I guess on the topic of like human beings and us making it complicated, I think that's also like a matter of perspective. So I am I don't think I'm someone who can enter an open relationship for various reasons. I'm like pro-monogamy for myself, but I say for myself because I do think there's like an element of nuance there. So the perspective on complications for someone who is pro-consensual non-monogamy, they might actually believe monogamy is complicated. They might believe monogamy is a social construct. They might believe that it's actually non-natural, or they may consider the fact that as human beings we are very capable of loving more than one person at the same time. Now, I know some people believe they can't, but I believe that it's very possible. What prevents us from doing that is the limitations we set and the boundaries we set in relationships due to the mononormative like culture that we live in. So I think that the complicated element is a matter of perspective, but when it comes to like entering relationships with someone who believes in polyamory, for example, I do think it's incredibly important for it to be 110% consensual on both sides, and for people to go into it not because they feel pressured, because I think sometimes what can occur is one partner likes the idea of polyamory and says, oh, I want to be able to build emotional or physical connections, because it's not always both. Sometimes there is no physical connection whatsoever in open relationships. It's strictly emotional, but they want to build connections with other people. And it might be that in an attempt to not lose the other person, one party might say, okay, that's fine, when in reality it's not what they want. And I think it's so important to be something that both parties want for themselves and for the foundation to be incredibly strong. But because if it's not, it's very easy for it to crumble.
Yeah, no.
I was just to out of curiosity then, so with polyamory, I think that's the word, and open relationships, or I don't know if they're one or two in the same. So are the boundaries that we can explore emotional and intimate connections with other people within set boundaries, but they can't fall in love?
No, you create them, I think. I feel like you create your own boundaries. So polyamory, polygamy, and any sort of open relationship, they're all under the umbrella of what an open relationship means.
But I guess with polygamy, that is like actual marriage. So it's the idea of a man having multiple wives, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So essentially in that respect, he is saying that he loves all these different women. But in open relationships, is it transactional? So you have the core foundation of yourself and your husband, but then you have transactional relationships based on intimacy or based on, emotional connections that you feel might be missing, or you just want to explore with the other person, but you can't fall in love.
See, I read something that suggested, like, because I was always under the assumption that polyamory and open relationships were one in the same. And right. I'm by no means an expert on open relationships, polyamory, polygamy, any sort of topic. And I feel like what would have been great is if one of us was in an open relationship so we could give our expertise. But obviously we're just having a girly chat. But polyamory, I read that polyamory is different from an open relationship or open relationships, because people who are polyamorous define themselves as polyamorous, with polyamory being an aspect of their identity, i.e.
Right.
I definitely have sex with other people. I definitely form emotional connections with other people. The same way you mentioned, like polygamy, for example. I will take on more than one wife, and we will do this and this and this, and it's just to be expected. But apparently the distinction between open relationship and polyamory is an open relationship having an element of fluidity, and fluidity being that sometimes it's a part of someone's relationship, other times it isn't. So I know someone who's been in an open relationship before, and they've been in an open relationship with a person, they get with another person, and they're in a monogamous relationship. Right. So it's not core to their identity. Or they might be in an open relationship with one person, and they move to an open relationship with another person, but the rules are slightly different. So there are things they could do with their ex that they can't do with their new partner. So there is an element of fluidity. And I think Oloni is right when she says that you kind of make up
your own boundaries.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I've got a friend who is in a throuple, but last time I spoke to her, she confirmed that she wasn't. However,
is that a 3-person couple?
3-person couple.
Is there 6 or is there 3?
Three, just three. So 3. So
6 is
primary couple. So there was a primary couple, which is her and her boyfriend, and they both had a girlfriend which they shared, who was part of their relationship.
So she's like a certified side chick to their relationship.
Not a side
like
chick.
Contracted.
She's not a side chick because she's actually a girlfriend. Like, I feel like a side chick is more of someone who is not, whereby your partner isn't aware of the other girl you have on the side, but they're both aware that they have this unicorn.
So is that his girlfriend or is that her?
He's got 2 girlfriends. So he's got 2 girlfriends, and she has a girlfriend and a boyfriend. She has a girlfriend and she has a boyfriend.
Okay.
So
so everyone is the girlfriend and the boyfriend of each other.
Exactly. But there's a primary couple, which is my friend and her boyfriend, and then there is their girlfriend.
Because they brought her in.
Because they brought her in as well. Yeah.
Okay.
So, but she's no longer in the picture. But they were together for a couple of months when she was on my show. She they spoke about it, and I thought it was quite interesting because I don't know, like just hearing about it, I thought to myself, but you're black. Like, black people don't even do this. That was my my first thought, admittedly.
We do it all. It's just culture that stops us.
It is
from
culture
talking
that stops
about
us,
it.
And shame as well.
Yeah,
being honest too. But I honestly, I just feel like open relationships, it's all an umbrella for everything. So even polygamy, I was thinking about it. I was just like, polygamy is also you can also have several husbands as well. We just don't see that often. It's usually men who have several wives or whatever. But
I think there's tribes in Africa that practice that for the husband.
In Mauritania, it's, I think more women. It's the women that have several husbands, for example.
Yeah.
But I think that's interesting to touch on, though, because I do think that sometimes we hear the word open relationship, and because of the way that society projects open relationships to us through Hollywood, through TV, we are often under the assumption that open relationships involves the man stepping out and the woman doesn't. Right. And I think that's why it's so important to emphasize the fact that open relationship
can happen the other way.
Yeah, is consensual, like non-monogamy for both parties. And another thing I dislike about the discussions about open relationships sometimes, when people are saying or maybe defending open relationships, then someone will come out of the woodwork and say, say someone's critiquing it. Someone will come out of the woodwork and say, but you guys are in an open relationship, you just don't know. And it's like, but no, because that's not the point. Exactly. The whole definition of an open relationship is honesty, the awareness and the consent. Yeah. So if someone is in an open relationship and they don't know, they're a victim. They're being cheated on. They are not please don't make out like they are a fool in their relationship.
I don't completely agree with the statement of when people do make it, but I'm not going to pretend I've never said it before. And I think the reason why I said it, the reason, of course, like you probably haven't. Anyway,
you're a troll.
I feel like the reason why I'm not that sad for people who are the receiving end of hearing that comment is because we're so used to judging other people's relationships.
Agreed,
if we spent less time judging people's relationships and you know they say charity begins at home, and looking at what is going on in the foundation of our relationship and being okay with it, because do you know how many girls are open to having a threesome just because their boyfriends want it? and they will be happy with bringing another girl in, but ask them if they can bring another man in. They're like, he would say no. He would be so against it.
Yeah,
so those type of women who hear those comments, to me, I'm aiming, when I make that comment, I'm aiming it at the women who are the pick-me's, dare I say it, because they're just like, I can never be in an open relationship. Yeah, that's because you want to do everything your man wants to do.
And not
what you want to do. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not completely that saddened by it. However, I do understand what you mean in the same time, because some people are victims to it, and that shouldn't be something that should be mocked, I guess. But in the same breath, I also do have another friend. I've got lots of friends who are in open relationships. I just clocked.
Your friendship group is eclectic. I feel like we are, but I think it's on this side, we are so black and white.
I know, but I am definitely black and white.
With the vanilla friends.
Vanilla, for real.
But I think it's important to have friends who have different sort of relationships, because it gives you an overview of what is going on in society in itself. But yeah, I've got a friend who's very open. They both have conversations about it. When they don't want to be open, they communicate and say, yeah, would you mind not talking to that girl anymore? I don't want you doing that anymore. They both have those type of conversations, and they've been together longer than a lot of monogamous relationships that I know. And they look very happy. Again, I'm not in the relationship, so I can't just say, oh, they look happy. But from what I see, they look happy. And from what she's told me, their biggest thing is communication. So I think if monogamy took some tips from what open relatitions are like,
in terms of trust, honesty,
in terms of trust and honesty and transparency, a lot of us would be happier. We'd just be a lot happier, to be honest.
And I think even when it comes to just our relationship with sex, I read something about open relationships and how people do a fairly good job at protecting themselves against sexually transmitted diseases through the use of condoms, and how in monogamous relationships we can basically because you there's an awareness there that your partner is having intimate relations with someone else, and so you are more proactive about the way you defend yourself. And I think that it's also like worth reminding people that you can also cheat in an open relationship, because like you said, Dami, like if the communication is there and you've agreed a certain subset of rules, and then you don't follow through with the rules and the agreement you have in with your partner, you can cheat. Like, for example, you know the Michaela Cole show? Is it?
Yeah,
what is it called?
I may destroy you.
No spoilers.
Okay, do you remember
I haven't finished it.
What episode are you going to mention? Go on.
One of the early ones.
Yeah, we've all seen it. Come on.
You've all seen that one, right?
Yeah.
Where they all went out.
No. Okay, go on. Carry on.
Okay, well, there is a scene, without ruining it, there is a scene where you see a dynamic play out in regards to open relationships. And there was an agreement with the boyfriend and girlfriend. And let's just say that the boyfriend was a bit deceitful and then did something that was outside the original agreement. And despite the fact that the original open relationship interaction was okayed by his girlfriend, what he did, in my opinion, then transcends into cheating, because that wasn't agreed. So in open relationships, like, you can cheat on your partner too, because if you do something that hasn't been agreed within the relationship.
Humans are trash, just full stop.
But I think that's why I'm a bit kind of like, would I not? Because it's almost a bit like what Rita said. If you give each other an inch, human nature is so opportunistic that we might just be like, had an inch, but then let me have a mile, let me run a marathon, let me see how it can go. Do you know what I mean?
That you're with, you have to know what the type of person you're with is capable of. If you know the person that you're with is like all about taking liberties, then just you have to be honest with yourself and be like, this is not the person
you can't do this
that
right
I can
now.
say
You're not
they
for
can
it.
do this. Yeah, exactly. They're not going to respect boundaries.
No, but see,
but
again,
if you feel like go on.
Oh, sorry. No, sorry. Yeah, I mean, again, I just think we're given... I just don't think, like, human nature is that black and white. Do you know what I mean? You can meet someone and you don't think they're going to take the piss. Do you know what I mean? You don't think they're the type of person that's, you know, you give them an inch, they're going to go a mile. Like, but in that situation, anything can happen. I think for me, I'm just not open to that risk. I know that in normal relationships that risk is
also
already there.
Yeah.
But I'm just
like
not open to bringing someone into my relationship. I just, like, I understand that it's not coming from like a judgmental place, because it's true. Like, different people, they live in different ways and they're comfortable with different things. Like, some people see a relationship as restricting, you know, they feel like they're choking. The idea that, oh, I can't text someone else or I can't see someone else and it's too much for them, and that's for them. For me personally, I just I love the idea of me being committed to someone. We're committed to each other. We're growing together. It's just us. Bringing someone else in
for years.
But this is the thing. That
yes,
the
let
only
me set up a scenario. Let me set up a
Listen,
scenario for you guys.
for
Can I set up a
50
scenario?
years,
Quick.
60 years, let's do it.
Scenario.
All right.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So you guys are having, you've been in the best relationship, but he wants to feel fulfilled sexually and would love if he could actually have a threesome. So he says, you can pick the woman. I will never contact her. It will be a one-time thing. I just want to spice up our sex life. It's a treat. Are you both telling me you're going to say no? You're not going to try and explore it? No,
I'm going to say blank, period, no. Because I'm not bringing another woman into my relationship.
Tell me what you saying.
No, I'm saying no. I can't imagine having but then again, we've had conversation in the past about my sexuality and elements of me being demisexual in that I don't actually feel sexual.
That is true.
Sexual attraction to someone unless there's an emotional bond there.
I thought it was
so I think.
Okay, yeah.
So I think on that basis, the concept of a threesome doesn't even appeal to me. It makes me feel icky because I wouldn't want to have sex with someone I wasn't bonded to.
Icky?
Yeah, it does.
Fair enough.
But that's because of my own individual relationship with, some people are asexual. Sex period makes them feel icky.
True.
So if I'm teetering on the edge of demisexuality, it's like, okay, I need to feel really close to someone. I feel like I love them for me to have sex with them. But with that said, going back to Rita's point, I think human nature is definitely not black and white, but that's why I understand why open relationships do exist at the same time, because there are so many complexities with how we navigate relationships. And I think with the threesome element, do you know what frustrates me about that? Because I feel like in that same dynamic, if the woman turns around, like you said, and says, okay, cool, can I bring Jermaine into the situation? He's going to be like, no. So I that's one thing that frustrates me about the whole threesome conversation and women feeling like, because when the hypothetical is presented, when the hypothetical is presented, it's always he wants to bring another woman. Why aren't we throwing these hypotheticals out with she wants to bring another guy? It's always us that has to
and they won't have it. They'll be shaking. They'll be shaking.
I
say I want Jermaine in the room. You're shaking.
I always go back at them. I always say, can we bring in a guy? Can we bring in a guy instead?
But I do understand.
Okay.
Open relationships do exist for various reasons. And sometimes some of the reasons they do exist is because parties within the relationship have sexual attraction to both genders, for example. So it could be that a woman is with a man, but she wants to explore sex with another woman. And that's why they might enter an open relationship where they say, you know what, I want to be with you, he wants to be with her, but they're both attracted to other women and they want to have an open relationship in that sense. But I'm very big on who am I to judge? Everyone should do what they want to do, but it's just important for us as individuals. The same way Rita is able to say, I know me, these are my boundaries, this is what I will allow, this is what I won't allow on the basis of how I feel as an individual. I think that's what's important. And I like the fact that, Dami, you can say, okay, I'm open to certain things because this is how I feel and this is the dynamic I have in relationships. And I think that's what's most important. In your relationship, are you being true to yourself? I think that's the number one question you need to ask.
If don't you are do having anything for them.
Exactly. If you are having an open relationship, it's because in your heart of hearts, that is exactly what you want at that moment in time. And if you don't want one, be true to yourself.
And I think it's also important to remember as well, because people in monogamous relationships seem to think that because they're in a monogamous relationship, that it's a safety blanket and that, when we talk about sexual health as well, even though I've been mucking around about sex and stuff, it's important to remember that you should still practice safe sex as well, because we say that with open relationships, they practice safe sex, etc. But when it comes down to monogamy, I'm not sure if you were mentioning it, Tony, but I think you said something along the lines of that's where people actually catch STIs the most. It's not actually open relationships, it's mono relationships. So again, I don't agree with it, but when people are making those silly statements about, a lot of you are in open relationships and you just don't know about it, it's because things like that are happening. So I think in general, a lot of people just need to take a really good look at the type of relationship they're in and ask themselves whether or not they're happy with the boundaries that they've both given each other, because a lot of people aren't honest. They say they want monogamy, but they clearly don't. Their actions aren't showing it. They're flirting with girls when they go out, for example, or girls might be enjoying attention from other men. What is it about all these things that is making you so pro-monogamy if some of the things that you enjoy are showing traits of someone who's clearly a bit open?
Thank you guys for watching this episode. We hope that you enjoyed. Please get involved in the conversation by using the hashtag HeelsOffUK, and do not forget to like, comment and subscribe, and also follow us on our social media platforms at HeelsOffUK. Bye.